So, MEPACON, there's my cheery Tales of the Hallowed Land players. Yeah, no problem, no problem. If it wasn't a good product, I wouldn't have gotten that interested in it. So MEPACON, I'll talk a little bit about that because I think I actually have a couple people from the con who are tuning in or who are going to tune in. It was a great convention. It's in the Lehigh Valley. It's in Bethlehem, PA, in the Lehigh Valley in the Sure Stay Motel Hotel. It's a Best Western property, I think, and it was decent. It was a good hotel. As I didn't hear anybody complain about rooms or the service. The staff all seemed very helpful. So the site gets a reasonable amount. Next year they're actually this well they do two cons a year. So they're in the fall they're going to be there again. And it is a smaller con. Oh, in the fall they're also going to have the hotel next door because apparently they sold out the block this year. So that's really good. It was I think one of the highest attended, if not the highest attended MEPA cons at over 300 people, which we know in the world of cons now that we have things like PAX Unplugged and forget Gen Con and Dragon Con, 300 people. But it actually was a nice environment. It was nice as it was a lot of people know each other. A lot of people have worked with each other for a while. So it was very cool to show up. So Friday night was kind of slow. Even everybody, I mean, there were many unfilled games for Friday night. So I didn't feel bad. I was like, no big deal. So I took the opportunity to walk around and introduce myself and chat with some of the other vendors here. So we have Game Night. Now, Game Night runs a cool site. If you look up Game Night, and the site is Game Night 3D, GameNight3D.com. GameNight3D.com produces some really nice, high quality 3D miniatures. And of course, my conversation started with Joshua from Game Night of, so you got any figures that look like they're kind of Bronze Age, Near Eastern, for Tales of the Hallowed Land? He's like, got some undead Egyptian skeleton type guys. Natasha Lehman, are they affiliated with the con? Or so I met a few people. I don't remember the names of too many people who I met as far as coordinators. Um, but yeah, it's a cool con. It's worth going to. It's worth going to, and it is very accessible too. Game Night. So he produces these cool miniatures. So that's how the conversation started. Then I gave him my card, and he said, "Oh, publishing. You're going to be doing publishing, like publishing other people's work?" I said, That's kind of the intent." Meanwhile, I knew probably this week I was going to reveal the Journeys deck. He said, "Well, I've got some 5e stuff that I wouldn't mind publishing." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's take a look at it." And honestly, as I've said before, like my only problem with publishing 5e stuff is there's just a lot out there already, right? But I went to his site, and if you go to his site, you can see his worlds and some of his content, and it's really good. So we have not entered any formal conversation yet. He's interested in what I'm doing. I'm interested in what he's doing. So there might be some discussion there in the future. But in any case, go by the website and check it out. Then I ran into Joe from BRW Games. Now, I had actually met Joe up at TotalCon. And I kind of walked through the dealer's room when some of them were still setting up. It was early Friday. And I was like, "I know you, don't I?" He's like, "Yeah, I thought you looked familiar." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm kind of hard to miss." So we had a nice chat. Then I caught him again throughout the weekend in terms of what he's doing. And he said he also has his own line, an extensive line of content he's written that is very old school revival sort of dungeony stuff and pulpy adventure-y stuff and a huge amount of content. And he's a real nice guy, and you should stop by his site too, RBW Games, and check him out. And last but definitely not least, there were other vendors there too, but these are the three I connected with. Whispers the Voidbringer, Alan Hall. Alan Hall was set up there. He's an author, so he writes stories. He didn't have a bookmark, but he had a clever QR coded. Didn't have a business card, but he had a clever QR coded bookmark. So there's the bookmark. There's the QR code if anyone wants to scan it. But he's got some nice stuff. He's got a novel series as well as a small encapsulated RPG. I believe he said it in I don't know, for any reason he actually tuned in. He can correct me, but I think it was either solo play or just two people. So I think he might have been solo play though. But it was kind of cool. That's kind of a gothic motif to it. But his short story or his novel length stuff, D&D influenced, we'll say RPG influenced novels, sold out throughout the weekend. So not a bad problem to have, as I said to the people at the booth when I walked back up later in the week and was like, huh. I was like, how you doing? He's like, wait, weekend. He's like, oh, well, points to the sold out sign. I'm like, I guess you did pretty well. So some cool people to go check out. I had some really great conversations. So it was worth going Friday just to kind of orient myself, to kind of meet a few people. I also met a few of the convention moderators at that point and the staff at that point and introduced myself and chatted. So it was definitely worthwhile. Saturday things picked up. Saturday this occurred at 1 p.m. We did Tales of the Hard Land, Curse of Sicaria in its full form. I had not run it in its full form yet. I had only run the short play version at TotalCon. And it was really interesting. So 5 people, 4 of them came as a group up from Baltimore. They sat down to play Tales, and it was quite an enjoyable time. It was a fun group. Good feedback on the system. Continued good feedback. I mean, there are a few things people noted, like just as far as clarifications of abilities, clarifications of things about the game or the scenario. This is all stuff I fully expect. It's all stuff I fully expect. I was not, put off by that at all. Yeah, it was good. Everybody really enjoyed it. They all want to keep up with it. They all said they would like to play it again. That's the best feedback I can get, right? I'd love to play it again. And that's the best thing I can hear, because even if there are little things that need to be done to it, as long as people are enjoying the setting, enjoying the environment, enjoying the feel of the game. At one point, that actually jumps ahead. Well, at one point we had Brian on the end there, on this end of the screen, rolling like 14 dice after the enchanter had done a few things to the character. And it was like, he really enjoyed picking up that handful of dice and rolling it. And as you know, or you may not know, the system is now billed as the Knucklebone system. And that's just kind of the feel of it. It's like just this really like kind of pulpy sword and sorcery kind of thing. Well, exactly. So, but I got a really good suggestion for that too from the second group that played. So I actually had someone who was a very experienced board gamer actually give me some good tips on that. So Curse of Sicaria went really well. I will probably be running that scenario this Saturday online for a private group. That I was originally going to run Blood Out of Bondage, but Curse of Sicaria is mostly set up online already because I use that as my test template for the Roll20 interface. The Roll20 module for the cool character sheets designed by Curzon. Tom, who's on here pretty regularly, he coded some awesome character sheets for me. So I set up Curse of Sicaria, and that's all ready to go with characters in place. So I said to the group, look, do you mind if instead of running Blood Out of Bondage, which was the advertised game, do you mind if I run this adventure? Because it's all ready to go. And I'm very close to finishing the Tales core book. And I really want to get that done this week. I want it done. I'm at that point. I just want it done. There's more stuff I have to do to it, but I want the core text done. So that's all I'll probably be running this scenario again. It was fun. It was interesting because it was a little more adventure-y than the previous stuff I've run for the game. But it was a fun time. So then Saturday night, there was a short play, Doom by the Living Dead, which I've actually changed to Against the Living Dead, did not fill. It did not run. So it was okay. I sat back. I went to the auction, the charity auction they have. Some really cool game stuff that kind of went by me. Again, it wasn't even the money because none of it was horrendously overpriced. I just have so much stuff. There were some interesting things, some interesting artifacts from the ancient days of gaming that went by. Nothing really rare. No signed Monster Manual 1 or anything like that. But there were some great charity things that went across. All the dealers put together a charity package, a surprise box. That was one of the only things I bid on, but it went understandably so very high. It was over $600 worth of stuff. So quite sadly, I didn't buy anything at the auction, but it was fun. It was fun to hang out at the auction and see people get very enthusiastic about this. They also had some other events, that like a costume contest and things like that. So it's a really fun con. It's very intimate. People are really, really super friendly. And this used to be Lehigh Con. And I actually sat with somebody on Sunday morning talking about this, that I think I was to Lehigh Con once. And I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago. I was at Lehigh Con once. I mostly did New Jersey cons like DEF CON, DEX CON, Shore Con. There was that other one down in Atlantic City, run by a rather unscrupulous person. He was almost the Jeff Mock of that time. Not as bad as Jeff. This guy was a little sleazy, but nothing like Jeff. Not that I know of. I'll leave that there. But this guy had run this little con in Atlantic City at one point. He had run a game store and then went to jail. I'll leave that right there. The old days of gaming. The old days of unscrupulous gamers. But anyway, so I was doing mostly the New Jersey conventions. But I went to Lehigh Con once, and I was talking to somebody who actually had run quite a bit of the Lehigh Con stuff and helped organize the convention when I was sitting there. So it was funny reconnecting with somebody. And it's funny because in the second game, I don't know if I have that on the computer, but I definitely have it on my phone. In the second game that I ran, or the third game I ran actually, there was the comment of somebody saying, somebody who saw the picture said, I'm pretty sure I've sat and played a game with that person at a convention. And I'm like, yeah, there were quite a few folks who have been around in the scene for a long time. Let me pull up. There. Show off my other friends. Workshare. So, this was the Sunday morning. Sunday morning, went back bright and early, 10 a.m. And it's funny, I got a conversation with Kate, who does all the social media and is one of the coordinators of the con. And I said, yeah, I've got nobody signed up tomorrow. And I said, should I show up at 10? Like, do people often sign up for the day of? She said, no. It's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell. And also, it really filled up. Like, it was kind of dead Friday night. And even, everybody kind of knew it. It wasn't a big deal. It was Friday night. There are a lot of people apparently in the Adventurers League sessions too, and there was a fairly big Call of Cthulhu LARP. Unfortunately, I didn't find out about it till it was just about to start, and I had just made the commitment to pack up for the night. But I am going to be talking about playing that possibly at Dex Light. We'll see if my schedule coincides with it. But they're a fun group. So these are my intrepid players. This is the fellow who was at Lehigh Con. The fellow all the way on the left who was at Lehigh Con, who was one of the organizers at that point. So it was fun. And in fact, Robin, who's over on the right here, is the one who gave me the really great suggestion. Has had a format small handouts to solidify the powers in these short play games. So they play Doom by the Living Dead, which is the progressive map adventure. It's much more kind of board gamey than the other stuff I've written for Tales of the Harrowed Land, which has been more narrative. So that went extremely well. I got great feedback. Again, they seemed to enjoy it. Nobody said they hated it. There was, there were suggestions, but there was no grave criticism of it. So that's always good. And it was funny because then I saw Kate the next morning and she's like, "Oh, you got players?" I'm like, "Yep." I'm like, "Yeah." And they had actually signed up the night before, but I didn't see their names on the sign-up sheet the last time I looked at it. I don't remember what time it was that they signed up. And then Robin was just kind of sitting at the table, and I had chatted with him earlier in the week. And I was like, or in the weekend, and I was like, "So you want to play? You're sitting here." They're like, "Sure." So we had a fun game there. That went well. It was interesting seeing it, especially only with 3 characters, and none of those characters were strict combat characters. So it was kind of interesting seeing this scenario that I envisioned being much more sword and sorcery, fighty kind of scenario, then turning into a little bit more of an evasion and thinking scenario and having to kind of work their powers to overcome the obstacles. But it was good. Everybody enjoyed it. And it was cool seeing kind of a rogue character in play. Well, somebody chose the rogue, and it was nice to watch a different type of character being played in this game. Rogue in terms of things like actually doing the trap finding and that kind of stuff, and the heavy stealth-based combat. So that was kind of cool. Let's see. This is the picture you've already seen or not? No. So then we get to my 1 p.m. Call of Cthulhu game on Sunday, which appears to be the tradition. I'll be doing Call of Cthulhu on Sunday. A very experienced group of Cthulhu players, and it was a real blast. So, it was interesting. It's always interesting. The last time I did a con review, somebody, I think maybe Justin, asked, what's it like having different groups of players go through the same scenario? Well, yeah. So that didn't happen. That happened a little bit in this game, not extensively. It was such an experienced group of players, though. I really didn't have to do much. I kind of just set out the, and it was funny because they saw the title "Mother of Monsters," and at the end they were like, "Oh, it's about this, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, you know." And they were like, "Any really experienced group knows what I'm referring to in terms of Call of Cthulhu when that comes up." But they really enjoyed the presentation of it, and again, they all said they really wanted to play with me again, which is, again, the absolute highest compliment I can get coming out of anything like this. And I did exchange contact information. And let me just get the name right. Oh, no, not my podcast software. I don't want that. Speaking of podcasts, you might be seeing some stuff come out in podcast form from me. Let's do a quick look here. Of course, I can't see his. Kevin, yeah. So Kevin, who's the second one in here from, I guess it'd be facing my left, is one of the ones who ran the Call of Cthulhu LARP, and we had a pretty extensive discussion during and after the game about all things Call of Cthulhu. So it should be pretty interesting to keep connected with that and hopefully jump in. But it was a good run of this scenario. They did a few things differently. There was one character, I think, one character in play that I hadn't seen played in this scenario yet, and the presentation was okay. See you later, CC. Sorry, I just saw that. It ended up being a pretty good game, a really good game. It was fun. Everybody kept going. You know, it was like the other runs of this scenario, where the end becomes more of this narrative wrap up, because what you step into in terms of this scenario ends up being slightly different than what you as the player and the characters think is going to occur when the game starts. So you get to the point like, okay, what's our actual goal here? And then once you establish what your goal is, and so far every group has actually figured this out, established, okay, so what is our real reason for being here? Then they've been able to go and get to a point where, okay, let's do a narrative resolution. But Kevin's the person that somebody saw one of the pictures and was like, I'm sure I know that guy. And I'm like, you know, a lot of the people at this con, there were a lot of, so this is the other cool thing. There were a lot of younger players, a lot of new players, very diverse group in every regard, which is fantastic because everyone knows I'm a fan of that. But there were a lot of old school guys there too. Who've been in the area for a long time. So it was funny running into a couple people and giving that moment of like, well, I think I remember you from these things 20 years ago or longer. So it was an interesting time. It was a fun event. I would recommend. I would definitely return. And in fact, I intend to, assuming nothing else, the weekend that. Yeah, like I said, I got back to this to start promoting the business, the game business. But I'm really enjoying being back at it. And this was a fun return to those kind of like small local-ish cons. Because, you know, that's some of the first cons I went to, like the early DEF cons and the Atlanticon, that was Atlanticon in Atlantic City, were the sorts of things where we were looking at maybe 200 people. You know, and throughout the various events, you did kind of get to know each other. And it was this kind of cycle of people. So it was definitely good. It was worthwhile. Like I said, they run a good ship. They take care of problems from everything that I saw. They answer questions promptly. You know, I've absolutely no complaints there. So it was a really nice time. And again, I got great feedback from this group as well, just on the scenario, ways that the scenario could be handled in different situations and whatnot. So, let's see what else. I think I may have just shot it all for tonight. I don't think I have any other big news for tonight. Big news, of course, was the Journeys deck, but also the wrap up of the convention I thought was important. I thought it was really, again, I'll say what I said after Total Con, that nothing substitutes being out and being in person with people and connecting in person with people. For the amount that I can sit here and talk about all of this online, either streaming it every 2 weeks or sit on social media and chat about it, people don't get excited in the same way that they do when you're sitting in front of them running the game and communicating with them. And I think that has been an invaluable tool for me to start to let's see. There's Don. How's it going? Thank you very much. If you watch the replay, there will be a talk about the reveal early on. No problem on being late. I'm going to wrap up in a little bit, but thanks for coming. Always thanks for coming on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to Dex Light. I'm really looking forward to, of course, Dex Light. Now, I know that this is a test run, getting back to them post-COVID. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I still have that in mind, Wolfie, as far as running, is getting feedback and running for your crew, for your guys, who I know, everybody I know there. So that's I'm just getting to the point where I feel I can commit to that, but I absolutely do want to start doing that. But even as far as and I don't mind feedback from a bunch of people who are going to sit there and pick things apart either. That's and it was great because after Total Con, I definitely had people email me things that I'm not sure they wanted to say in person because they were afraid, I'll seem like I'm rude if I'm criticizing them in person. I mean, that's why I'm there. Part of why I'm there is to get feedback on this stuff. And if someone has a legitimate suggestion, I'm thrilled with it. So, yeah, that's kind of a wrap. MEPACON, I give multiple thumbs up. I give the experience there. It's very easy to get to, too, which is nice. Every kind of relaxed drive through the Lehigh Valley to get there. Up the river to get there. And good gamers. Fun gamers. Everybody who sat down for a game definitely put their energy into it. Definitely walked away with this impression of having had fun. So yeah, Dexlight, unfortunately, again, they aren't doing the full-scale DexCon yet. Or I don't think they've announced Metatopia yet either. And I think they're running Dexlight just as a test to see how things go for them financially. I know that, everybody was hit hard by the pandemic, and smaller convention units were definitely hit harder than Dragon Con, right? I mean, Dragon Con isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon unless things are closed down for 10 years. And if that's the case, we've all got something more to worry about than going to a con. But I'm hoping Dexlight goes well. There are quite a few people who were at this event, including Kevin and crew, who are going to be running the Cthulhu game, the live action. So that is something that I will look forward to. And hopefully it'll be a good event. And hopefully we'll get a good play test of the Journeys deck there. I think that'll be really interesting. We're looking at 1 hour slots. I think Adam said he's looking at 1 hour slots to run. And then cycling through people and seeing what we can pull out of that as far as play testing. Just to try to iron out any last little bugs. But yeah, that's where I'm at this week. Hope everyone's had a good week. It's been exciting. It's been invigorating here, trying to get everything intact and going. And we're looking forward to continuing more progress. Keep an eye out on the social media. I'm gonna pop out my like and subscribe again. Here we are. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for chatting or lurking. Quite a few lurkers out there. Good to see you. Patreon.com, Fox and Board Games. www.foxandboardgames.com. Social media, which is now Instagram and Facebook. Oh yeah, cool. Good. Nice to see you, Blake. I know you were a little hitting under the weather today. Fox and Board Games is Twitter free in 2023. That was my joke at the end of last week. So we're not on Twitter anymore, but you can still find us mainly on Instagram, is where a good bulk of the activity occurs. We do have a page. We do have the page on Facebook as well, and of course on YouTube, and of course here Twitch from the Tomes. So thanks a lot for coming on. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for chatting. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.